Okay, so today we're going to do a deep dive into a pretty tough case.
Yeah.
The tragic case of Laken Riley. You remember her.
I do.
She was 22, nursing student.
Yeah, Dalton, Georgia.
Full of life.
Mm-hmm.
Loved running.
Yeah.
And, dreamed of helping others.
Mm-hmm.
But then one morning jog,
It turned fatal.
Yeah,
sad story.
It is. It's become, sadly, like all too familiar,
Right.
Young life cut short, family devastated, and a whole community's left grappling with like the how and the why.
Exactly. It's that sense of security that we associate with the routine, with those familiar places. Yeah. It's profoundly shaken in cases like this.
Right.
And, it becomes even more disturbing when that routine is so inherently healthy and positive, like her dedication to running.
Exactly. Yeah. Like jarring, right? It just breaks the expected.
Yeah.
Like instantly set off those alarm bells, for her family. Oh, of course.
When she didn't come back.
Right.
Unanswered calls.
Yeah.
And just that mounting panic.
It's just awful.
I can only imagine the nightmare they were facing.
Absolutely. And the community response, too. I mean, that speaks volumes. This wasn't just a missing person report.
Right.
It was like an all-hands-on-deck mobilization.
Yeah.
Volunteers, family, law enforcement, everyone just coming together.
Yeah.
I mean, that underscores how out of character this was for Laken.
Right.
It wasn't someone who just wandered off.
Right.
There was this collective sense that something was really wrong.
Yeah, you get that feeling. And then, you got that first chilling clue, the surveillance footage for the gas station.
Yeah.
Near her
route, yeah.
And they see a dark sedan slowly trailing her just moments before she vanishes.
Chilling
is just like, it sends shivers down your spine.
You instantly know this isn't a simple, disappearance.
Right. That footage, it immediately shifted the investigation's focus, right?
Yeah.
It was no longer just a missing person.
Right.
It was a potential abduction. And that raises the stakes considerably.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then, after 3 agonizing days, the search ends.
Yeah.
They find her body.
Right.
Miles from her usual path.
Miles, yeah.
It wasn't just that she was gone. It was the autopsy confirmed.
Right.
It was murder, homicide.
Yeah.
With trauma being the cause of death.
Trauma, right.
That detail just, it drives home the brutality of this whole thing.
Yeah. The discovery of her body was really the turning point. The search for a missing person becomes a homicide investigation.
Right.
The focus shifts to finding the perpetrator.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then enter Jose Ibarra.
Right.
Identified as the driver,
That dark sedan.
Of that dark sedan. From the gas station footage.
And
here's where it gets really unsettling.
Okay.
Ibarra was 31 years old.
Right.
And he already had, a history of harassment and assault charges.
Assault, yes.
So,
that detail is crucial,
Right.
It's not just that they found their suspect.
Right.
It's that he has this documented history of violence.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder, knowing this, should law enforcement have had him on their radar sooner?
Yeah.
It raises some, difficult questions.
Right.
About how we monitor potential threats.
Yeah.
And whether there were missed opportunities to intervene.
Absolutely. I mean, you're right. The prior history just adds a whole other layer of complexity to the case.
Totally.
It's not just a random act of violence. It suggests a pattern.
A pattern of behavior.
Yeah, a pattern of behavior. But let's get back to how investigators built their case, though. Okay.
Against him? It sounds like they were incredibly thorough.
They were, yeah. They meticulously tracked his movements on August 12th.
Okay.
Using surveillance footage.
Yeah.
And they were able to place his car near where Laken was last seen.
Okay.
And then, they got a license plate hit.
Oh, wow.
Confirming the car was his. No room for doubt there.
No, not at all. So they've got their suspect. They've got him on camera. They've got his car. But what really solidified the link, though, to the crime was the search of his residence.
Right.
On August 18th.
On August 18th.
Yeah.
This is where the physical evidence is just, it's incredibly damning.
Yeah.
During that search, they found items that belonged to Laken.
Right.
And not just random things that directly connected him to the victim.
Wow. And it doesn't stop there, right?
Yeah.
You've got the forensic evidence found where her body was discovered.
Right.
Tire tracks.
Tire tracks.
Matching his car.
Matching his car.
And then DNA evidence.
Right.
Directly linking him to Laken.
I mean, the DNA evidence in this case was particularly impactful.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a match.
Right.
It placed Ibarra at the scene when he claimed he had never even met Laken.
Wow.
Yeah. Completely dismantling his alibi.
It's like, the pieces of a puzzle are falling into place, and each one's painting a more and more incriminating picture.
Precisely. And at this point, the evidence is overwhelming.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And it led to his arrest, right?
Yeah.
On August 19th?
August 19th, yeah.
On charges of kidnapping and murder.
Right. And this is just the beginning of a very demanding legal process.
Right, right.
But the amount of evidence gathered against Ibarra at this stage was already incredibly substantial.
It was. Yeah, it was. Yet, even with all of that,
right,
the article we've got says the motive behind the crime remained unclear. Unclear, yeah.
But they did unearth some very disturbing details.
Yes. The lack of a clear motive is always unsettling.
Yeah.
But the investigation did reveal some deeply troubling information.
Right.
There are reports that Ibarra had been following Laken.
Really?
For days.
Oh, wow.
Observing her jogging routine.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, this suggests a level of premeditation that is truly terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not all, right?
Yeah.
Witnesses came forward.
Yeah.
Stating they had seen, the dark sedan.
Right, the sedan.
Near her usual route.
Right.
In the days leading up to her abduction.
Yeah. It wasn't just a random encounter.
No.
This appears to have been, a planned attack.
Right.
A targeted stalking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those witness accounts are incredibly chilling.
They are. And, if we connect this to the broader context, it really highlights the vulnerability that women face.
Yeah.
Particularly young women who are often alone.
Yeah.
In public spaces.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a stark reminder that even the most familiar, seemingly safe routines can be disrupted by someone with sinister intent.
Someone with sinister intent.
And Laken's community.
Yeah.
They were outraged.
Absolutely. The public outcry.
Yeah.
The protests demanding justice.
Yeah.
It reflects that collective grief and anger.
Right.
But also a demand for accountability.
Yeah.
And the case even garnered national attention.
Wow.
Putting pressure on the authorities.
Right.
To ensure that justice was served.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings us to the trial.
Okay.
Which began in February of 2024.
Right.
Amidst a storm of media coverage.
It's a case that captured the public's imagination.
Yeah.
And for good reason.
Yeah.
A young woman.
Yeah.
Seemingly targeted. The details were disturbing.
Yeah.
And the evidence was mounting.
Yeah. I mean, the prosecution was set on portraying Ibarra as a calculated killer.
Right.
Who deliberately preyed on Laken.
Right. Yeah.
But what must have been truly impactful were the testimonies.
Right.
From her family.
Those testimonies must have been incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, they humanized the case.
Right.
Reminding everyone in the courtroom that this wasn't just about legal proceedings. It was about a real person.
Right.
A beloved daughter.
Yeah.
A life stolen.
Yeah. I can only imagine the weight of those words.
Yeah.
But, beyond the emotional impact,
right,
the prosecution had a mountain of evidence to present.
They did. The DNA match.
Right.
The surveillance footage placing Ibarra at the scene. Laken's belongings recovered from his home.
Yeah.
They methodically constructed a very strong case.
And I'm guessing the GPS data from his car was like the linchpin.
You say linchpin, and I'm immediately intrigued. Yes, that GPS data was incredibly damning.
Yeah.
But was it the ultimate deciding factor?
Right.
Or was the jury already swayed
by
the emotional weight of the family's testimony?
Yeah.
It raises a fascinating question about the role of human bias.
Right.
Even when presented with what we consider, irrefutable evidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes you think, right?
It does.
Even with hard evidence, like how much do our human instincts and emotions influence our perception of guilt or innocence? It's a complex question.
It is.
And I think it speaks to the larger themes at play in this case.
Absolutely. We tend to think of evidence as objective.
Right.
But the way it's presented.
Yeah.
The narrative that's kind of woven around it.
Yeah.
All of that can have a profound impact.
Right.
On how it's received.
Yeah.
How it's interpreted.
Yeah.
And in a case, as emotionally charged as this one.
Yeah.
The line between logic and emotion.
Yeah.
It can get blurred.
Absolutely. But let's not lose sight of the fact that the defense still had to make their case.
Right.
Despite the evidence stacked against Ibarra.
Yeah.
What was their strategy?
Well, they attempted to portray Ibarra as misunderstood.
Okay.
A loner.
Uh-huh.
With social difficulties.
Okay.
But not a violent criminal.
Right.
And, they tried to cast doubt on the prosecution's timeline.
Right.
Suggesting, the possibility of alternative explanations for the evidence.
Okay. But in the face of such strong evidence,
Right.
The DNA, the GPS data.
Right.
Did those arguments really hold any weight?
Well, that's the challenge for any defense attorney in a case like this.
Yeah.
It's not about proving innocence.
Right.
It's about creating reasonable doubt.
Right.
And when the prosecution has, so meticulously constructed a narrative backed by, forensic evidence, it becomes incredibly difficult to dismantle that narrative.
Yeah, it does. And in this case, it seems the jury wasn't swayed.
Right.
They deliberated for only 4 hours.
Wow.
Which seems like remarkably short considering, the gravity of the charges before delivering the guilty verdict on both kidnapping and first-degree murder.
Yeah.
February 20th, 2024. A day that I imagine brought a very complex mix of emotions.
Right.
For her family.
And it's a bittersweet victory, isn't it?
Yeah.
A validation.
Yeah.
Of their pursuit of justice.
Right.
But, forever intertwined.
Yeah.
With that immense grief of losing her.
Yeah.
No verdict can truly heal that wound.
No. You're so right. And then a month later came the sentencing.
Right.
Life in prison. Without the possibility of parole.
Yeah.
For Jose Ibarra. It must have been a really heavy moment in the courtroom.
It is. It's a moment of closure, in a sense.
Yeah.
But one that's always overshadowed by the knowledge that,
right.
A life was taken.
Yeah.
A future was stolen.
Yeah. Reading about these events, it's hard not to feel overwhelmed by the sheer tragedy of it all.
Yeah.
But, there's another aspect of this story that I find deeply inspiring.
Okay.
Laken's family didn't let her memory fade away.
Right.
They channeled their grief into something truly remarkable.
Yeah.
They started the Laken Riley Foundation.
That's what I find so powerful about this story.
Yeah.
They didn't just seek justice.
Right.
They took action to prevent similar tragedies from happening to others.
Yeah.
The Laken Riley Foundation.
Yeah.
It's a testament to their strength.
Yeah.
Their resilience.
Yeah.
And their determination to create a positive legacy in Laken's name.
Yeah. They're advocating for safer communities.
Right.
Supporting other victims of violent crime. It's a reminder that even in the face of, unthinkable loss, there can be hope. There can be positive change.
It's a powerful reminder that, our actions, even in the face of grief, can ripple outwards and have a lasting impact.
This deep dive has been incredibly heavy.
It has.
But it's also been incredibly illuminating. We've delved into the details of the crime, evidence, the trial.
Yeah.
But, what truly stands out is the human impact, the ripple effect of this tragedy.
It's crucial to remember that, behind every headline, every case file, there are real people whose lives are just irrevocably changed.
Yeah.
And, it really underscores the responsibility we all share.
Yeah.
In creating safer communities.
Right.
Advocating for justice.
Yeah.
And supporting those affected by violence.
Speaking of creating safer communities, what struck me
while reading about this case was the role technology played.
Oh, interesting.
Surveillance footage was key.
Right.
In identifying Ibarra.
Yeah.
And the GPS data from his car was a crucial piece of evidence.
Right.
Makes you wonder, could this case have been solved as effectively without these technological tools?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Technology is undoubtedly a powerful tool for law enforcement, providing evidence that might otherwise be impossible to obtain.
Right.
But, it also raises important questions about privacy, surveillance, and the ethical implications of using such tools.
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
It is.
We want to use technology to solve crimes.
Yeah.
To keep our communities safe.
Right.
But, we also need to be mindful of the potential downsides.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the technology itself. Right. It's about how it's used.
The policies, the safeguards that are in place.
Right.
And the ongoing conversation.
Right.
About the balance between security and privacy.
Absolutely. We can't ignore the role of media coverage either.
Right.
I mean, this case garnered national attention.
It did.
How do you think that impacted the proceedings?
Well, media attention in cases like this can be a very complex factor.
Right.
On the one hand, it can shine a light on important issues.
Right.
Increase public awareness. Put pressure on authorities to, ensure a thorough investigation and a fair trial.
Right. So bringing attention to these issues can be a catalyst for positive change.
It can.
But there's a potential downside, isn't there?
There is, the potential for sensationalism.
Yeah.
For bias, for influencing potential jurors before they even step into the courtroom.
Wow.
I mean, these are all valid concerns.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we need to consume media coverage.
Yeah.
Critically.
Yeah.
Questioning the narratives that are presented.
Yeah.
And, remembering that everyone involved deserves a fair, impartial legal process.
So after going through all of this, where do we go from here? What are the key takeaways from this deep dive?
I think, one of the most important takeaways is the power of community.
Yeah.
The way Laken's community, rallied around her family.
Yeah.
The volunteers who searched tirelessly. The outpouring of support.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that, we're not alone in these tragedies.
You're right. And it's not just about support. It's about accountability.
Yeah.
Speaking up when we see something wrong, challenging, harmful attitudes and behaviors.
Yeah.
Creating environments where victims feel safe to come forward. These are all essential parts of building a safer and more just society.
Yeah, it really does. It all comes back to that sense of shared responsibility.
It does.
We tend to think of these cases as isolated incidents.
Right.
But they're, often symptoms of larger societal issues that need to be addressed.
And this case, in particular, it raises some really hard questions about, how we as a society protect women.
Right.
And create environments where they feel safe.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the problem.
Yeah.
What can one person really do to make a difference? It can all feel so daunting.
I understand that feeling, but I think it's crucial to remember that, change often begins at the grassroots level.
Right.
Individual actions.
All right.
When they're combined with, collective effort.
Yeah.
They can create this ripple effect. So, what are some tangible steps our listeners can take?
Great.
What can we do in our own communities to prevent tragedies like this?
Well, for starters, we can educate ourselves.
Right.
About the warning signs.
Okay.
Of, predatory behavior and violence.
Right.
There are tons of resources.
Okay.
Available online through local organizations.
Yeah.
That can help us understand the patterns and the red flags.
Yeah, that's a great point. Knowledge is power.
Right.
By being informed, we can better identify those potential threats.
Right.
And take appropriate action.
Exactly.
What else can we do?
Well, we can also support organizations.
Yeah.
That are working to prevent violence against women.
Okay.
And promote safety in our communities.
Yeah.
Whether it's, volunteering our time, donating to a cause, or simply, spreading awareness.
Yeah.
Every little bit helps.
And I think it's also essential to foster that culture of support and accountability.
Right.
We need to be willing to speak up when we see something wrong.
Absolutely.
To challenge those harmful attitudes and behaviors and create environments where victims feel safe to come forward.
Yes, absolutely. By creating a culture of, respect and empathy, we can help break the cycle of violence and build safer communities for everyone.
This deep dive has been incredibly informative.
It has.
But it's also been deeply affecting.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the details of the case. But what stays with me is the human impact, the ripple effect of this tragedy on Laken's family, her friends, her community.
You've hit on something truly important. I mean, behind every headline, every statistic are real people whose lives are forever altered by these events. And, it underscores the importance of our collective responsibility to work toward a world where such tragedies are less likely to occur.
As we wrap up this this difficult but crucial deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this thought.
Okay.
What can you do in your own life to make a difference? Whether it's, educating yourself, supporting a worthy cause, speaking up against injustice, or simply being more aware of your surroundings. Every action, no matter how small, it can contribute to a safer and more just world.
Remember, hope is not a passive emotion. It's a call to action. So let's channel our grief, our anger, our empathy into positive change. Ensuring that Laken's memory lives on in a way that makes a real difference.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
It was my pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.